Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Rodic, and I'm here with another episode of Founders. This is my first time doing it with one of our amazing founders out of Australia. Ammar, how are you?
Good. Daniel, yourself?
Yes, doing great. As I was telling you earlier, we've been slowly in our heads and our brains and our hearts migrating our time to Australia. So while it's evening here for me in Toronto, in my brain it's just midday getting the day started.
Other side of the world. I love it. It's a good video too. Very good video.
Props to Eric Michael on our team. He's our head of design and all things creative. So a lot more coming there.
A new era. It is a new era. Absolutely.
A new era.
The way you guys are doing things, it's crazy.
And you're a huge part of that. For those who might be tuning in for the first time, I know we have probably some folks watching for the first time from all around Australia. We host this show to just tell the real stories behind some amazing founders, and everyone and every founder knows their talk track and what they talk about in the media of how the company started, but really what I'm excited to talk about with you, and you started quite a bit younger than most people I've interviewed, which is super fascinating to me, but that'll challenge me to go even further back. And I just love to understand what was growing up like for you as a kid, and just places there, and we'll see where the conversation takes us.
No, love it. So it's first podcast for me as well. To be honest, it's still a raw story and still growing, obviously. And I've always wanted to do it at the right time, and just never found the time where the business has just stayed still. It's always either grown or come up with different challenges. But I think the memories of simple little things like we grew up on housing commission, so it still is. My mum's still in a housing commission house till now, so it's still part of the story. Love to get our house one day, of course a place to live, but again part of that growing up business, reinvesting every dollar you've made back into the business to get something for later. But we pretty much grew up on welfare payments, where it was Salvation Army, St. Vincent de Paul, dropping off hampers to our mom grew up, so 6 kids, single parent.
Wow. So
she took us all on. Dad left about 3 years old when I was about 3. But good memories. So the one that triggered it mostly was he came pick me up and he took me to Sydney Airport. We sat in the car and we watched planes, and just looking at his face, he was so excited, he was happy. And it was something he liked doing. So I've always wanted to be a pilot, and that was part of the dream and why I started the business pretty much, because part of being a pilot is either you've got a lot of capital behind you, or your parents have money and you can afford flying lessons or a $250,000 starting course, or alternatively doing physics. And I wasn't really good at school. I was that one that studied but constantly failed.
Well, it just wasn't good for you. I think it's the other way around.
It was like memorizing that product. Still till now, I'll read a book. By the end of the book, honestly, the part of reading and then memorizing it all, it's very hard. But if you ask me to memorize, every cost price of 7,000 SKUs, I can tell you the cost price, the sell price. It's amazing what the mind picks up and attaches onto every ABN number, every bank account number. But the most important things don't get recognized. But so basically, looked at his face, and ever since I just want to be a pilot, and that's the only reason I started the business at that time, was to try to save up that 250,000. So there was, when I finished school, I had tried to get a loan from the bank because so basically my mum worked at a restaurant called Maddie's in Liverpool, and his brother had a chain of hairdressing supplies businesses, and I used to go wait for mum at the back of a shopping center when I was 11, and he came in, the brother of the owner, one day and said, "Hey, why don't you come to work and cut boxes?" And the legal age here to work is 14 and 9 months. And I told him I was 11. It's not going to work. So he said, "Look, I'll give you cash, $5 an hour, and come in and I'll get you cut boxes." I had a broken leg at the time, so he's like, "I'll let you sit on the seat and just do it that way." But when I went in, there was no seat, of course. Another 6 years of work since then. So every day after school, I'd go catch the train over to Liverpool, walk across Newbridge Road, go to Moorebank, start work. I just loved being around that, business people in general. hearing his story as well, coming to the country with no money and how he built this amazing business. So I always looked up to people like that, and I always just wanted not for the money. It's still very basic, to be honest. I live a very basic life. I wear this 10 AMR shirts, work shirts every day, ripped shoes. I'm not really into it for the luxurious stuff in life. It's more so it's cool what's happening in that business process. Seeing something grow so quickly, to be honest, it's really rewarding. It's more rewarding than the financial part of things. So now it's like a game. It's like trying to build more and more and add to the puzzle. But like I say, the biggest one's been staff. My team's been amazing. I've had staff been like best friends to me, like family to me through my whole life. I found ways of rewarding them and making them included. A lot of them will tell you they feel like part, they call the shots, or I give them that flexibility to do what they would do for it being like their business. And if it doesn't work, don't do it again. But if it works, just keep implementing and try to make more of it. Keep hitting it every day. Try other things, and I think that's why we got to where we are, is because of a team that's prepared to risk. Even though it's our money, but it's risk our money to put to
everyone
else. Better AMR, better service.
Yeah. Well, I think that this whole idea of risk and trying and testing, and I tried to do some reading on some of the other interviews and pieces about you and the business, and even before the or maybe not before your cardboard cutting experience, it sounded like in school you had a little entrepreneurial side to you, selling. I think I read posters or marbles or. Do you remember what was the first ever thing you ever sold to someone? Your first business?
Surprisingly, it was marbles. So I went to Cabramatta West Public School. A lot of Vietnamese, Cambodian migrants at the time were coming in. So I was the only Middle Eastern person in class. Pretty much only Australian person. So there was no. It was all migrants that were coming in, and they were very competitive with marbles. Marbles was the thing, and you can get these cat eye ones, a packet of like 20 from the reject shop. They have a reject shop here for about $2, and I knew these guys were really competitive when it came to marbles. It was like gambling for them. It was a big commodity for them. So I knew that when that person would lose his special marble, they'd play obviously for his hand, and when they lose that special marble, you can get $2 up to $5 for a single marble, and the packet of 20 was $2. So
great margin.
Was a business. That was amazing. And then the second one was chewing gum. Chewing gum, basically my mum handed out mail in people's letterboxes. And one day Wrigley's, a big chewing gum company here, I think you guys got them too worldwide, but the Wrigley sent out 3 samples of chewing gum. Pretty much I had a Country Road bag at school. I don't know if you guys have them in Canada. Nice big bag. And I loaded them up with the gum and just started selling them at school. And that was like 100% margin for us at the time. So super profitable. And the posters one was cool because we had this motor show once a year in Sydney, and they'd give up, Subaru. At the time, the car was the Subaru WRX. Is what everyone in class wanted. So I'd go into the motor show, take posters from there. They'll hand them out for free. I would ask for a bit more for family members, and basically sell them in school, and people use them on their folders in their rooms. And that was 100% profit too. So I think out of the 7 days the motor show was on, I was there every single day collecting posters. It was a good commodity too at the time.
Mm-hmm. And so as you kind of experiment with that, and then obviously you start this exploration in working at I guess your first job, so to speak, in the box cutting business. This is kind of your first exposure to the world of salons and hair cutting and that whole industry that you're in today. But even before AMR started in the version is today, it sounded like you tested a few other things before you actually started the business. So
basically the minute I had got that box cutting role, it's because it was in the beauty industry, I sort of got attached to it, and I learned all the ins and outs very early on, and I saw the prices, specifically in the salon industry, what they were charging. You'd walk over to a hardware store and you pick up a tool bag for a tradesperson for, $15, or you'll go buy a hairdressing tool case and you'll pay $100. And the tradesperson tool case was much better quality product than the hairdressing tool case. So it was just about people making higher profit margins in the industry. And that's where I saw the gap. As you know, it gave us that competitive edge. We can bring these tool bags, we can sell them for $15 to hairdressers too. And of course, they're going to be the same quality as the tradesperson tool bag, because we're buying them from the same place. We're just making them look more hairdressing friendly. And the beauty industry is one to be stuck in. I learned very early on, of course, I live with my two sisters at home. If there's, they have their last $10 and they're spending on beauty products, even if they're hungry, it comes before food. Makeup, cosmetics, it's always been a huge part of female and now male with the barbering that's happening. I'm not sure if you guys have the same trend in Canada. Now it's men that would spend $100 on a haircut, go in for a beer, sit in a barber shop. So it's now transitioning over to men. Men are going in for facials, pedicures, manicures more than ever before. It would never exceed the effect of what women bring to the beauty industry, but it's a growing pace. Everyone wants to look and feel beautiful. So I think it's an industry that's going to suffer, I think.
Yeah, well, it's only grown, especially now with what's your growth of what's been happening in online. But it sounded like the origin of the business was first at I guess a trade show would be the best term, or like the Royal Easter Show.
That's right? The one. So in the salon business, no one will go to the Easter show. Easter show is the last place you would buy something like this. Usually you'd go for rides or the theme park part of the Easter show, the fun parts. But I decided that time when I was 15, I'd buy from my boss and resell stuff at the Easter show. But one hurdle I couldn't get through is I couldn't get an FBOSS machine. I was still 15, turning 16 at the time. Easter show comes on April, and March is when I clicked on to 16. And I remember specifically asking my mum, can I put it under your name? Because I just can't get the FBOSS machine. And that's the only reason I finished school, was the fact that, banks weren't giving FBOSS machines out till you were 18. Now, of course, it's a lot easier. You can get payment gateways through PayPal or, Stripe. There's so many different facilities you can get at an early age, and really they don't ask. And they don't question if you're 16 or 15.
It doesn't,
Merchant facility. And people were starting to love FBOSS back then. So it was a big thing. And without it, really, your business, without having that facility there, you couldn't start a business. So that's the only reason why that Easter show didn't work out. My mum did turn around and say, hey, listen, you can't get an FBOSS machine under my name. That's not happening. And obviously, because she disagreed, she didn't think it would work. I thought it would work. I think I was the only one, and it didn't work, sadly. That turnover that we made with the amount of theft that happened during the Easter show, it was a loss. It was a good loss. But I learned a lot from it.
You learned, 100%.
We had a competitor in the same building, actually. We're doing business with them now. So they were the only ones that do the trade show, a brand called Theo Lorenzo's. They had a booth in the same venue as well. And I remember that was my first price undercutting experience, where I was selling a product cheaper than the manufacturer by half, less than half. We were selling a product for $8. They were selling it for $22. And I remember getting into trouble at that age, 16, then coming over the owner of the company and saying, hey, listen, what the hell are you doing? You can't undercut a manufacturer. And it took, I think now, since then, about 14 years to come back around and say, hey, AMR will supply you. Would love to supply you. It took them that long to build our reputation back up, to say, hey, listen, guys, we don't discount anymore. It was something we did back then to grow our reputation for being the cheapest. And now, of course, we've got the best prices on the market. It's always going to be a thing for AMR. It's the only way. I won't stock it if I'm not the best priced. But now it's sort of that trust factor with customers, where they're going to buy it off you. They know they can get the service. They know they can get the trust factor. They know if they don't like an item, they can just call up and they'll get an easy refund. Customer service team here, refunds all day, every day, just to keep people happy. The last thing you want is giving something to someone that, they're going to look and go, I got ripped off. And it just leaves that sour taste about your company in their mouth for a long time. So if you can make every single one of them happy, or as best you can, they're going to go tell other people about you. And that's where we're at now, to be honest. It's more word of mouth than anything. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. But you had, so it's interesting because you did that, and then you had another iteration of that with AMR International. And then it sounds like where you kind of first initially hit success was some of the work you did on eBay, which is, it sounds like you're a pioneer of, and that was actually, I would say my own first business was selling. I first started with selling my old Game Boy on eBay, and then I made some little seed capital, and then I turned that around to buying and selling game cards for a summer. It never really took it much beyond that, but eBay seems to be this origin story for many entrepreneurs
as well. Yeah, eBay is definitely the best place to start. We're not on there anymore at the moment. We went off about a year ago. We got off all these marketplaces, but eBay was definitely the best start for our business. It's a platform that provided customers, a lot of customers, of course, a big percentage of marketplace back then, and you didn't have to have your own website. And having your own website didn't get customers on board straight away shopping. So eBay was always that area to get your name out there. eBay was really powerful for us because we were able to sell really competitively. And one thing in this business is when you're buying and selling at a great price, is people perceive the quality to be not so good. So that's another thing we struggled a lot with when we were starting off on eBay, because the cheapest washing basin will be about $1,200, and we'd go in there for $450. People question us and say, is it used? Is it secondhand? Is there something wrong with it? And to convince them it's a brand new box. The hardest part was, the pickup. When the customer's like, listen, I want to pick up. I don't want to freight the item. And you had this beautiful picture of your business that wasn't your business. It was just you put it up there to make yourself look better, bigger. And I photoshopped it with a big AMR logo on top. Yeah. And I had that on eBay, and people, say, listen, I want to pick it up. And when you give them your mum's home address and they come over, I still got a customer, Morris, that did the same thing. He bought his washing basin when I was at my mum's house. And then you ring the customer and you're like, hey, listen, I've gone home already. It's probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Can you come pick it up from my house instead? And the transaction will happen there. So you got my mum coming out, offering them drinks. But they still bought it. They still bought into the story. Like I say, those customers, they still got some work for me till now. Back at school when I'd supply the salon up the road, that salon's still Ando. She's still buying off me. I think that's when it's working. The other big things you don't have to worry about those so much. As long as you're working in the little things, you got those same customers, they're getting the best deal. I talk to them still then they walk into the store. First question I ask them, are you getting looked after? Is your prices good? Are you happy with your pricing? Because it's always been an insecure thing for me. You've got to be at a right price, right products, right prices.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously you seem like you've built at this point in your life quite a focus in this industry, but my also sense is you must have been trying until obviously AMR became what it is today, which is your kind of full-time business and all that. Were you testing other ideas along the way as you were, I tried various things, to be honest, in between, but the hair, you always resort back to the hair and beauty industry. So whether it be like a hair extension business that's not sold on AMR, that's completely independent, brushes, a brush brand that's completely independent, a standalone, a furniture company, salon furniture company, a standalone, that's not sold on AMR. So we sort of just tried to stick to the same industry, but multiple things. But a lot of those things, out of 12 things, maybe 2 succeeded, that we kept going. And then we just worked on those 2 things and tried to do those 2 things at scale. And that's by trying to build the structure as big as possible. Like I had a business coach in the early days that I trialed out for a little bit, and he taught me structure. Try to build the cup as big as possible. That way you can take up as much business. Because when you guys started, I think, a podcast in 2016, that was our most exciting time too, because that's the year we went from 9 to 16 million in turnover. Wow. But that was also the year we made the biggest mistakes that cost us $5 million. Oh my God. But yeah, doesn't stop us, of course, from taking risks, but it sort of pushes us back into questioning people a lot more than we did back then. So no, I know, totally. And you kind of hinted at the biggest mistakes. Every entrepreneur's had these moments, right, where you have like little mistakes. You're like, oh my God, like I can't believe I did that. But there are other moments that are like, wow, this could end the company. This could, and obviously that didn't happen. Is there any particular stories or memorable moments, like once the business is really in flight?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So 2016, that year we went from 9 to 16 million. I found that the hardest part was trying to convince institutions about our business. Everyone will love the story. We'll go in there and try to get, by institutions I mean big corporate commercial facilities. So you've got these big companies here that own a lot of commercial land. So you got Goodman's, Dexus, Altus. So basically, we're sitting in front of them and trying to convince them, hey guys, I need more space. I've got a 1,500 square meter warehouse, and I need your 20,000 square meter warehouse. But most of institutions will say, listen, you're going from 1,500 squares to 20,000 squares. We're going to need a sufficient bank guarantee in place. And they'd ask for a $1.7 million bank guarantees. And that's capital that's tied up and just you can't get access to until you vacate the land. So I spent about 2 years trying to convince these corporates to, like, hey guys, to please take the risk, and I promise you, this will pay off so well. And just none of them will do it. All of them wanted that 12-month bank guarantee. It's, oh my God, we'll go in them in real estate, we'll walk out, we're over the moon. And then you'll get the email just saying, love your story, but we need 12 months bank guarantee based on, companies still, going from a small facility to a larger facility. But then the only chance we had at getting a big facility was sharing it with a big a corporate company that's been around, that has a facility already, that wants to downsize. So I went to a third party logistics company. And again, that's where the biggest mistake of my life came. Our products are very complicated. They're big ranges, and people order in ranges. Hairdressers order in ranges. So if the customer loves Wella or Schwarzkopf or Goldwell or GHD, she's going to order in ranges. You'll get the occasional consumer that will buy bits and pieces from every range. But this logistics company set up the warehouse in a style that, used from high sellers to low sellers. And although it won't work in their world, but it didn't work in our world. And our $150,000 a year rent went from $500,000 a month in fees running the logistics. And I couldn't pull the pin because I was in a contract. I had convinced the CEO had convinced me all these big promises that, now we're going to have a lean facility. You're going to, see the cost go down dramatically. We're going to have efficiency up. And then instead I had customers waiting 7 days to receive their order. Even for it to be picked, it will be 7 days. So our customer service went down the drain. We were out of stock. We had to sell down our inventory to keep up with the logistics company. All up, we lost about $5 million of costs. Without the potential business that we could have had. And that's when the business plateaued at that $20 million turnover for 2 years consecutively till 2018, before we were able to take the lease back over again and take the whole warehouse back in our control. Wow. And it's only recently, actually last 8 months, that the Dexus has turned around and they gave us a chance. They said, look, we'll give you guys a chance. We'll give you guys half the facility, same facility we were in with the logistics company. And they haven't looked back, of course, because we're renovating, we're doing things for the building that, because it's not our home here, It's we're not those tenants that always ask, just, we just do it ourselves. So,
But so the business had that plateau, but then what happened since 2018? Like the business has gone gangbusters.
We got to a stage where we owed this logistics company $2.1 million. It was obviously the first time I'm talking about as well, but $2.1 million. And there was no way of convincing this logistics company to back out. No matter, they knew they couldn't do it. They knew their hands were tied. They knew the story. We went from paying $150 to $500. I had a lot of institutional investors lined up, private equity companies that were ready to come in as well, to fulfill that dream of listing on the ASX. So they had come and they've pulled the pin. Actually, these investors turned around and said, listen, you're stuck in a big situation. So they pulled the pin and we were left on our own pretty much again. And we've never had funding. We've never borrowed money once in our life. And that's for Clearbank, was our first funder. Beforehand, it was just always in Australia, if you don't have property, you don't have the equity to put in. No one takes your equity as your business. You've got to have property for that. And I'm still renting till now. I find no use in having a house at the moment because I've got this business that's way more entertaining. And it takes me to places. I can move next month, 6 months later, I'm in another country or another city, opening a store, running a place. So It's not something I can stay still. But that I would say was by far the biggest mistake. There was all sorts of things happening. It was vomiting blood because they would tell me, you know, we're going to lock you out of your unit. You know, it's 75 staff that I had to take care of. At one stage back then, actually, I had a tea business and we had 146 workers. So it was like, they were the ones in the back of my mind the whole time. It's just, you can't let this fail. It's just got to try to turn it around. And I was just patient. You had nothing else other than patience, to be honest. You had no, there was a lot of things happening in the warehouse that was out of our control, and you just had to go with the flow and just, you know, make do, you know, as the day came. And then best news came from the CEO of the company at that time, where the logistics company liquidated. I shouldn't say it's the best news, but it was the best news for me because that was the only way I could have got out of that contract in 2018. That's what happened. And obviously that's when the growth came back again where it was initially. You know, we wanted to open, you know, 12 stores back in 2016, but you know, that slowed down and we're only back on it now. So we've got one store coming in Canberra, ACT, which is the capital of Australia. We've got another store opening up in Epping, Victoria. So hopefully we'll get to about 7 stores by the end of the year. We're really quick. We've got a great system for it now that just falls into place. Great people too have joined since then. So well, this came in a bit earlier, but I think some of your team or former team members are watching. So. Yeah, I know they're killing me. They're very, very appreciative of everything you've done for them. So stores is an interesting topic because it broaches another conversation I'd love to have is on just like growth and like how you grew the business. And again, I'd love to kind of frame this from, you know, once you've actually incorporated the business and it's kind of, you're past the initial experimentation phase and you're like, hey, I know what our business does. How did you get your first customer? And then, you know, how's it evolved since then of driving growth for the business? So the first customer came just a walk in, to be honest, at Ando. She was up the road from school. I'd walk to the shops, which is Stocklands, and walking to Stocklands, she was on that Humphreys Road. I'm pretty sure it's called Humphreys Road. So as I was walking there, I walked in, I said, hey, what color brand are you using? And she told me. And I went and approached my first supplier because of that one customer. And when I approached the supplier, I said to him, hey, guys, I've got a very good customer and she's using your brand already and I'd like to stock her. And he said, so you just want to take a customer that's buying off us already and supply her? It's not going to work. And obviously, I built that relationship with them to the point where they did start supplying me. And obviously, it'll make that brand for them really, really big with social media. Because in the hair and beauty, if I put, you know, if we're comparing ourselves to a clothing company, I can't compare their social medias to the next level. You know, it's fashion business requires that. But in the hair and beauty business, it's always touch and go with social. They want the authenticity part about the company, but some of the other things that work in the fashion space won't work in the hair and beauty. So basically, we'd get it. Facebook was, you know, starting there, was more of a social person-to-person sort of thing. Businesses had started, boosting had started, but we took the long route out of that, and we went more traditional. So we were sending out flyers that we printed at home, and my mum will put them in envelopes. I got my friend from school to copy and paste every hairdresser on the yellow pages. Wow. I recently found out too he was using a bot, so he was charging me a good sum of money. He wrote a script. I didn't know what a script was till later, and he wrote a script and he would just copy and paste from the yellow pages all the addresses, and then my mum will sit and label envelopes and we'll put Australia Post stamps on it. But I would buy the stamps as I afforded them. So I'd buy 100 stamps at a time, $50, 50 cents a stamp, post it in there and send it out to customers and just pretend to be a larger business and a business that had a warehouse, but we didn't. And then, from there, just advertise cheap and that they'll come. Well, that's the easy. There's another founder I was interviewing a couple of weeks ago, and she runs a flower company, easy to understand, an amazing high growth business. And her first sales strategy for the first couple of years was putting bouquets of flowers in Starbucks's. And putting a little card in front of it and say, hey, if you like this, come by. And that was the only acquisition strategy for years. And it worked. Oh my God. That's awesome. Because word of mouth would have worked for it as well too afterwards. Word of mouth is the power of word of mouth is incredible, really. big part of our business. I think more than anything is word of mouth. It's like, I went to this place now. It's huge, and I remember building the stores in a way too that were really large, and then seeing the reactions of the customers walk in. They've never seen anything like it. The biggest hair supplies you can go to and shop in is probably around the 300 square meter mark, but we were, 500 squares max, I would say now with the new ones upcoming, but we were 3,000 square meter outlets. So customers will come in, and it's like we have a big hardware store here called Bunnings Warehouse. They'll call it Bunnings Warehouse for females, and they freak out and they light up, and you just see them shop for about 3 or 4 hours, just walk around this warehouse, FaceTiming their friends. It was so rewarding. And that's why we wanted to go bigger, of course, better. And we were small back then, to be honest. We just made ourselves look bigger. It was always pretending to be bigger than others.
Yeah.
Now it's different. Now we're trying to look smaller than what we are, in terms of the building, putting multiple branding to make us, because we always want to show them we care. We care just as much as we did when, I was starting off and close the shop, come to your salon with an FBOS machine to deliver your order. We still had that service. I still till now, while the customer service girl's taking an order, I'm teaching my staff to look at her screen live when she's doing it, and start picking it. So you can just shop that customer. It just goes, I got it in an hour, 2 hours. That's a lot of the reviews we have now. It's like I got my order in 2 hours. It's a surprise.
Which is amazing. Yeah. I mean, this is another interesting thread I've noticed with a lot of great companies. Is this the word I probably hear the most often is building a community. And really what that means to me is you've built some kind of extra personal relationship with your customers or potential customers or with the brand. And as the business has scaled, have you found anything that's I guess how you've been able to scale that? Like, what are some tactics that have kind of evolved over time that let you maintain that personal touch? So you hinted at one of just surprising people with like incredibly fast orders, but is there anything else that you've ingrained in your staff or in how you go to market or any of that?
Know that when we get a 1-star review, I'm obsessive with reviews, super obsessive. But when we do get a 1-star review, it's really serious. It's about turning that customer around. It's not about her removing the review and writing something good. It's just trying to get her to stay on board, obviously, and just give us one more chance after this. We really did screw up. Her order didn't get to her on time, or I would always get the colorful emails. See, it's names on the website, but I always get colorful emails from customers. And even when I'm walking from the office, of course, to the warehouse, I've got to walk past the shop, and there's always a customer abusing me somehow, telling me what she didn't like about AMR or what service she received recently. And that puts you in your place. It sort of gives you a wake-up call and humbles you in a way where, but if you're not taking care of her, the others are not getting taken care of 100%. Because she's been with you for about, 8 or 10 years or longer even.
Yeah.
So I think I've always been reminded, always having those people on call or message, whether it's, still dealing with a customer and he wants a better price on something and, you got 100 stuff to take care of them, but you're still doing it. It puts you in that place of, what they want. You're always on trend. Like you know what's bothering them a lot. And the hardest one's been seeing them struggle through these COVID salons, especially we have a city in Melbourne. Melbourne's been going through quite a bit of shutdowns. I think seeing them struggle has been very hard because we've always opened up our business to B2C as well as B2B.
Of course.
But B2B is the one we really care about. And say our only focus is, the biggest focus is B2B. So we pretty much halved their bills by $1 million during COVID to try to help them. And I think that's the coolest thing about having the position we have is being able to do more things for people. It is growing to us. So I eventually will hire a CEO, obviously, that's more fit, someone with an MBA, someone to help take the business to another level, but always be heavily involved in it and just ramping up the growth. I know it's getting too big for us now. And feel it already. I can see in the staff that people growing. I don't know people's names as I did before. There's a lot of new faces, and when you're starting so many new projects in the one building, you're bound to have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that have started businesses before. Again, I've got my old boss working for me. It's like a father figure to me. He's amazing. So he's been working for me since I was 16. He came on board to help me out.
Wow.
And he's been there ever since, pretty much. So he's older guy, but around 60 mark. I don't want to offend him. But he's really upfront, and he always, thankfully, puts me in my place. It's And that's what you need. You need that team always pushing. You don't want those people clapping and just doing what you want. You want those people challenging you. And if you don't have it, honestly, it's if I didn't have it, I won't be where I am today.
And so part of it obviously comes from hiring the right people. But even in those cases, sometimes there's still a shyness, or there's still a, like, do I really want to be that honest? Because technically this person is still my boss and determines my future. And as a leader, just even thinking back, if it hasn't even been proactive, are there things that you think you've put in place in the culture that allow people to have that safety to speak honestly and challenge you?
To be honest, it's more so because they see others do it, and they see how upfront others are doing it. It's not that typical conversation you'll have with your boss where you're just putting up your hand and you're suggesting something. It's more of a friendship, that helping a friend out and giving him that input. And they've all seen that. And as long as that culture is there, and I always tell them, as long as you guys keep that culture doing, you're telling other people it's okay to do that. And we've had some of the best ideas from staff that we've least expected it. And that's why you just, again, we learned, don't judge. If the warehouse guy wants something, you do it. It's if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, as long as it's a calculated risk. It's not one that's going to damage. Try it out. And that's, I think, making sure that others are doing the same thing around those new starters encourages it. And that's how we've kept that culture going. We've seen it break a few times where, teams will separate from each other and start being competitive with each other. One part of that's healthy, because I do like that competitiveness amongst the team. I shouldn't say it, but I do. I love it. But, making sure they're friends at the end of the day. They get on the same table. They eat with each other.
Healthy. It's a motivating competition versus a toxic competition.
We have a lunchroom downstairs, like 100, you'll fit 120 people in, but our team's, it's not too big. It's not that big. So we've got a lot of space in this building. But when you walk into the lunchroom, the one that really cuts me the most is when you see 4 tables and they all, you've got the same team separate on 4 tables. They're all seeing individually, and they've got their heads in their phones and they're eating. I just said lunch break, but come on, guys, bond. Even if you all got your heads on one phone, just
even better.
Exactly. So I put a big ass TV in there for them. So I've got trying to get them to be friends. Of course, every father, you want your kids to all get along. And I think that's the one that hurts the most, is when they don't get along personally. Even though it's a business and we're here to do something, if they don't get along personally, then in the back of their mind, they're not going to be happy here. And the most important thing is to be happy, because without it, they're not going to do their best. And drive forward.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. The part I was going to probe on was you'd mentioned this moment about, you don't know everyone's name and the company's growing so big. And this is really tying to some of the stuff I noticed you're doing internationally. But was there ever like a day or like a moment in the company when you first realized that, like, oh, I actually don't know this person's name? Like, do you remember like when you crossed that threshold?
I remember when walking down, we have Juna. Her name is Juna now. I've got it in the back of my head. So I walk down to the warehouse, and this girl will light up when she sees me, and just know my name, and she'll just bubble up and just come up and say, so happy, over the moon. And she'll remember, the week before, meeting with another staff member that used to work for him, and I remember her coming up to me and just was like, man, this is rude. I can't forget this person's name. It's so important. Especially how kind they are and how open they are. And they're working amongst your company. And I think that's when it really hit. I think it's time I hire an executive assistant just to sort of remind me of that. And I think that's where it's going to come down to, that eventually I will need that help, because I don't want to forget people's names. I want to walk down to everyone on their birthday. I want to shake everyone's hand on their birthday. I want to buy them a birthday cake and still have that birthday cake for every single person. Not a birthday cake for everyone in that month, because, there's too many people working here. These are things that struggles that you've seen change over time. It's those simple things take away from that culture.
Yeah.
One does want an individual birthday cake on their birthday. Some don't want it, but now it's just like, having this many staff together for a birthday party over this many birthdays, that time, and look into those things. And I think that's, the hardest part about growing, is that you can't treat your staff the same. It's the stuff you used to do before with them, to spontaneously take them out every second Friday, take them to a dinner, rent a really nice restaurant, run amok with them. So, have some fun, pretty much. But those things you can't do anymore. There's not a bus big enough. You need 3 buses. So they're hard. It is hard. Finding that balance is hard. I still, what I do now is sort of take team by team and get them to come to my house. I think they love it the most because it's like we're at his house, and
which is
drink, put on some food, good music, and just get to know them better. The ones that I do forget their names, I know their stories, I know what they're good at. It's just their name, and I think that's the rudest thing to miss. So.
Well, you're already putting the steps in place to fix that to the best of your ability. But it begs another question because it relates a bit in the short term of what's happened with COVID. But as the world slowly emerges from that, there's still going to be elements of, as you become an international company, even if you're all in the office, you're not going to be in the same place. You're not going to be dealing with customers that you can walk down the street to see. Have you found anything that works, virtually or, eventually, across borders that can work for leaders who are trying to figure out the same thing as you of, how do I engage my team? Even if I, can work in the office, I won't be able to see everyone if my team wants to work from home and people want to have a flexible working environment. How have you, what have you learned over the past while that you might continue doing?
Honestly, it's not the same. I still like that face-to-face meeting. I still prefer it way more than obviously the Skype sessions I've been doing my stuff. Right before COVID hit, we set up a business in Manchester. So I got a 1,000 square meter warehouse. I spent 90 days there last year. So we set up a little facility, and the 14 staff I have there now, I think it's about 15 even. The 14 people I have there, I haven't met. I've only met one face-to-face. The others I haven't. It's seeing them, as much as you see them on camera, they can't capture the same, of course, motivation that the love they're going to see that I have for it. The same way same way in person. It's one challenge I'm still battling through now, and that is going over and see, my Penrith team, or I tend to just build things and just let them run themselves based on having good team in place to take it without having to go and touch base or micromanage them as such. Never been big on micromanaging. Probably when I was starting the business, I was very obsessive. But the last 5 years, I've learned to just delegate and just let that team run it. Only step in when there's something going bad. And I would get the review emails, of course, but I'm sort of more of a not too micromanaging type, so I always let them do their own thing. So it's not really a big deal as such for that reason. But I think the culture-wise, I'd love to, the face-to-face elements has to come back. It's a big part of our business. I think a lot of these the online shopping. So we doubled in size through COVID. Wow. It's mostly because we realized consumers still wanted to do their nails at home, still wanted to do beauty at home. So they were buying, the consumers were picking up on our items a lot more, and sales were increasing heavy there. But one thing we realized once COVID in Sydney is non-existent. It's very, very rare for us to go for a shutdown. I think we've been through one shutdown for like a 3-day period. So bricks and mortar is still very big. And online sales have, for a lot of online retailers, big ones here, big marketplaces, has dropped. And it's slowed down for us as well online. But our stores have increased significantly. And if we didn't have that 5 years of building the business at the start without having online, because it took us 5 years to get online when we started the business. I was still very late in it. I went more bricks and mortar. But without learning that bricks and mortar stuff, to be honest, I find it very beneficial to use online, because at least I have that nice 70-30 split of online sales to bricks and mortar sales. And that's the one we're building on, bricks and mortar, because that's just growing so quick at the moment. But people will shift back towards things they did post-COVID. I know it's not seeing now, and I have this argument with a lot of my team as well. They think that the world's going digital, that's it, everyone's going to shop online, and forever, as soon as shops open, no one will go there, or very little will go there. But not in Australia shopping centers are full. Bricks and mortar is still big. No, I was chatting with some people in New York, and same thing there, and I'm very sure in Toronto as we open up too, it'll be the same. And there are some things that probably are going to continue to be a nice convenience to have online, but there are something as experiential and
as emotional as, you know, hair and beauty and your aesthetics. It's something that I'd want to work with an expert to craft. I'm not going to be able to, you know, do my own hair and my hair and makeup and all that on my own forever if I have a chance to be pampered and to be taken care of. And it's, you know, it's unique to the industry, which I totally agree. Absolutely. And it's interesting too, because, you know, as much as our world and my world has been so e-commerce focused, there's when you look at some of the great iconic direct-to-consumer businesses in all across the world, most of them end up having a wholesale component. Either they started in wholesale or retail, or eventually grow into it. Like I watched a presentation where Harry's, which is the, you know, very iconic razor company that had started here in North America, and you know, a substantial portion of their sales were coming from Walmart, and no one even thinks about it. You know, they are known as a D2C brand, but it's actually wholesale that's driving a significant portion of the business at the time, at least when I saw that presentation. So I would say you were just early to the game.
Yeah, that's it. Of course. I think having that omni-channel too is really, really important. Just not having that whole online mix only. I've seen a lot of online only businesses, and still around now, very powerful, great companies that I look up to too. But they're just online. This is just digital. And I think you got to have a bit of, you know, like sort of more of an omni-channel business. So we do B2B, but we do big, you know, big pharmacy chains, big retailers that we supply as well. But we always like to have every customer, no one take up more than 3% of our sales. So we don't like to have too many eggs in one basket. We like to have that scattered, a good number of customers. So that if one channel slows down, at least we can pick up on another channel. So we've always got a great source of income, good sales trajectory, something that increases us too. So I think that, You
planned it out very well. Whether by design or not, it's working. That's all that matters.
I would love to say I planned it out, honestly, but it's all unplanned. We're just going with the flow here.
You just executed. You just executed, and that's all that matters.
And that's it. Try. You know, we've had things for 4 years that won't work, but start working. Just all of a sudden, you know, start generating sales, and it turns out to be a great business. Some things need time, but I think the more things we try out in life, it's better for later. And it's better than doing them later too. I know that there's going to be a time where I'm going to be fearful, and that's always my biggest fear, is one day I'm going to be scared to lose what I have. But because I recently had nothing, it wasn't long before I had nothing. It's just, I don't care what I have at the end, as long as, you know, I gave it a go, gave it a shot. That's all that matters. And I think that's one thing that fears our competitors a lot. It's just, says that really have nothing to lose. There's no risk that's big enough for us to take. Even if it's greater than us, we're taking it because we're giving it a go. If it doesn't work, we've always got a game plan to get out of that problem. Not always the case, but 99% of the time, there's another route to get out of it. And that's what we like doing. Say, hey, if it doesn't work, what are we going to do? And that's the first question I ask the staff member when they come up with something. Well, if it doesn't work, what are we going to do? And that's like, you know, we'll get rid of it. Don't worry, we'll find a way. And it always works itself out. So
you know, as we finish off here, I'd just love to understand a bit more about what you're excited about for the future in terms of the business and yourself. You know, this is an interesting question that's just come in right now. You know, how's being a business owner changed your life? Did you see yourself doing something for yourself since you grew up? And we talked a little bit about that second question already, but going forward, you know, what are you most excited about for yourself and for the company? And I imagine they're one and the same in many cases. And we would love to finish off there.
Yeah, no, so overseas growth. The most exciting thing for us to be honest, the Manchester store for us. I think every one of my staff members have brought it up to me, including the warehouse staff. They'll go home and tell, you know, their family members, hey, listen, we opened up in Manchester, and they'd say we. So it's us as a team. I think that's the most rewarding thing. We just launching in Germany now. So we've got a 1,200 square meter facility in Germany. It took us a while because you have to be a local German citizen to register. I have to find a really good partner there that could, you know, take the lead. I think the most exciting thing is going to be our most rewarding thing is going to be our overseas growth by far. Because that's I think an area where it's a really untapped industry in terms of what we did here. If we did it in so many other countries, it would have been scale, because you guys have other countries have population. It would be much greater. And because we've got 23 million people here, over 60 million people in the UK. I think UK and Europe is going to be the most exciting part of our business in the next 5 years. I think they'll look back at this now and it's like it's gonna come good. Really, I hope so. The little things, to be honest, the little things are what faze you the most. I remember, like, my mum, 6 kids, 1 parent, would get 2 pizzas and we'll have to share. We'll know there's 2 slices each. Those little things that you remember back then, and now you can buy any food you want. You know, food's not out of the picture.
Yeah.
And when it comes to food, I've never taken shortcuts. When it comes to feeding my staff or my people or whatever it is, you can buy more than 2 pizzas now. And I think if you always have that core main focus, the other stuff is all a bonus there. And we've got to where we want to be in life. It's more so now just making scaling it up, the point where we're doing $1 billion ideally in sales. I think with the overseas growth, I think we can get there. Not now, it'll take 5 or 10 years, but we'll get there. A good industry. And to be honest, a lot of the other players so make it easier for us, I would say, my competitors.
Yeah, well, you're focusing on what will never change. There's no question of product market fit or any of that. It's how do you just delight your customers, give them what they want, and you're obviously doing a great service to a number of small business entrepreneurs who run salons and hair, all these shops, beauty parlors all around the world, hopefully very soon. And I'm sure they're all very appreciative of everything that you've done to support them and continue to help them achieve their hopes and dreams, just like you are doing too.
It's it. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it.
Yeah, but again, thank you for taking the time, and I'm super excited. Hope one day we'll get a chance to properly meet in person.
Absolutely, look forward to you guys coming over. And thanks for your help, the Clear Code. It's phenomenal. I know you guys are definitely changing the way banks operate. I'm always telling my friends excited about you guys, and like I say, really appreciate the product you guys have built. It's helping a lot of business owners. I know some of my friends have jumped on board, and they're very thankful to me for introducing them to the company. But I'm also thankful to shout out to Andy, my SEO guy, who actually put me on to ClearBank at the start. He found you guys very early on for an article, and
amazing. Well, thank you to Andy. Shout outs to him, and hope you have a great rest of your day, and we're excited to follow along your journey. So thank you so much, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Have an amazing day. See you.
Bye.